So what you're having?
Ooh, Lord, I'm gonna get some hot tuna. Devin Adiremi, wiwibloggs.com. Now we are here with Cesár Sampson. Now that was in reference to your lyric. Lord, I'm gonna get some hot tuna. Is what people actually misheard.
Yeah, I realized that. I never heard it like that, but I can understand it because when I sang those lyrics in the studio, we were trying to get that broken and drunk sound. So I purposefully slurred my speech there. So it could be interpreted as anything really.
And as we were discussing over lunch, it's actually quite a hard song to sing because the range is quite wide. There's some really low dips, and then there's some like really high notes in that.
Yeah, I mean, most importantly, it has to be, no matter if it's difficult or hard, but it has to be your kind of song, which means that it brings out your strengths. It has to have powerful moments at the points where you can actually give power, and in that context is actually a really good song for me. It has a lot of range, has very low notes, very high notes, but at least where it matters, it plays to my strengths, you know.
Strengths, power, your words have been my Bible. How can I search for someone new? Now, Cesar, you are in super fine shape. How's your personal training going? I mean, can you imagine having you as a personal trainer? Like, that would be your client.
Ask William's sister. I mean, I didn't really personal train her, but I trained with her. Yeah.
Suzanne, I know, and she likes salmon, so she's gonna get some hot tuna.
That's right.
Oh my God. You performed recently at the Life Ball surrounded by angels. That was an amazing performance. How did that come about?
It's just one of those things that come flying in the inbox after Eurovision, as it now does on a daily basis.
You're so good at answering questions. Angels flying,
yeah, right.
You know.
I'm a writer, you know. Free association. Yes, it's just a lucky, spontaneous thing. I think there's a couple of those events that wouldn't have called me if I would have come in 12th or 13th. But then when I got in third, they were like, "Oh, wait a minute! I think we needed to include this guy in our roster," you know. And so there were a lot of like spontaneous bookings because the Life Ball was pretty soon after the Eurovision Song Contest. But we managed. We had a week with training with the National Ballet, with the National Opera, and just came up with a choreography, and it was really nice. Yeah.
Amazing. And I like it when you say that, you know, sometimes that you wouldn't have got the call if you didn't do so well at Eurovision. Well, sometimes that call can be a little awkward. I mean, like Miss Hungary ignored AWS and said, "You know what? We're gonna call Cesár Sampson."
Well, I mean, whoever came up with it was very clever. I mean, the song "Nobody But You" is very has an admiration in it, you know. Mm-hmm. So it can be very easily like rerouted to that topic, you know, like a celebration of the female beauty. It's a very easy sell, I think.
It is. Yeah. But that was not it, right? Because you see, it's funny. It is a song that has so many applications. Because when I first heard it, and before I first interviewed you in London, I thought it was a spiritual awakening, and you were like, "Well, actually, I'm not religious." It's like, okay.
But it was very spiritual, nevertheless. I'm a very spiritual person. I'm just not affiliated with any one religion. Yeah. I understand the general quest for truth, for a deeper truth that all the religions share, and a sense of what is right and what is true. But I think I can do that on my own with my soul searching, my personal soul searching.
And you're still with Symphonics, of course.
Of course.
And you guys are a songwriting camp. Are you any ideas for Eurovision 2019? Are you going to be submitting some songs, putting it in the bid?
We certainly have already started thinking about that quite seriously. We have our artists that we would like to see enter the Eurovision national internal selection in Austria. And of course, as it always is, since many years, we get a lot of like questions. Would you be interested in helping us with production for this and that country? Would you do all of the production for this and that country? It's just a general thing. Whatever the Eurovision final is finished, we get the first calls for the next year. But you know, a lot of factors have to come together. We all have our main projects. I got my new solo project now. and the rest of the team, they all have their respective projects, and then it just has to happen. We have to sit in the studio with the artist, preferably, and then something has to happen that we feel is the right song.
And it's interesting, you were lurking in the background for quite a number of years during Eurovision, and people were like, "Oh, Cesár, do it," and you were like, "Oh, I'm not ready yet, and then you finally did it, and you've got such a huge result, top 3 finish. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's great, isn't it? It must be such a good feeling. But are you happy with doing Eurovision? Like,
yeah, for me, Eurovision was exactly the positive experience that I felt it would be. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew I was supposed to do it, and that's always a good feeling to have. You don't.
Do you need money for it though? Because I mean, your stage alone cost 60,000 euros. And then there was smoke on top. There was it was such an expensive, tasteful but expensive. Do you feel that with Eurovision there has to be a lot of money thrown at it for it to do well?
For any broadcast of that size, there's money in those amounts of money. You can get around that. I do feel that this year was a bit more expensive in general. I only have Sweden and Ukraine as a reference point, but I think this was one of the more expensive ones in terms of, like, if anybody wants extras for their show, it was a bit expensive. But yeah, I mean, it's up to the broadcaster. They have to have confidence, and I felt the ORF had a lot of confidence in me and my song. So it was just another push that I got.
And also, I feel like you understand money. You know the balance sheet. You know how to cash those checks. I mean, you were in court recently on copyright infringement, backing a case. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, that was really interesting. It's so shocking how few artists are actually aware of the legal situation, and that they actually have a right and a possibility to interfere, and that there is something happening right now. It's about the European regulation. If platforms like YouTube and all those major streaming platforms actually have to pay money to the owner of the copyright, as radios have to do, as TV stations always had to do. They always do that. It's normal. We get our money from that. It's only the streaming, because they still they take advantage of a very antiquated law from 2000. Since then, the landscape has changed, and most of the money goes through the streaming platforms, but they don't have to pay anything to the owners of the intellectual property.
Oh, wow.
So so that is well overdue. So it was really interesting when they asked me to represent Austria and go to Brussels, talk with all the politicians there in the European Parliament, and just make them aware of how urgent this is and how far off what it should be it actually is, and then how it affects the music industry already in our country and the other countries.
I love these ambassadorial posts, from the stage to the courtroom. And you also write for a women's magazine, right?
Yeah,
you're a columnist.
I'm recently I've entered the circle of columnists. I added that to my portfolio. I just really like talking about things that I know. I don't like talking about things that I don't know anything about. But when it comes to health and nutrition and music and voice training and stuff like that, I can talk for days and days. So I was really surprised how easy it was for me to write that article about health and sports and training.
And you know what I love? I love surprising you. We've been chatting for 2 hours, and these questions, you weren't expecting them.
I love that. I love it. I don't like when I know the questions beforehand.
Oh, then I'll submit it in advance next time.
No, I don't like it. I don't want it. I like it when it's fresh and when I have to think of it on the spot. I like it.
You've got to tell us about your new single. I know you won't give away the title, but what style of music is it going to be in?
The thing is, I think Nobody But You, even though it was specifically made for the Eurovision stage, it had all those, stylistically, it had my taste in it. So that for me, from my ear, there was always a bit of blues and a bit of even folk in it, a bit rock in it, and of course a lot of R&B and soul. And that is pretty much the mix it's just the music that I like making at the moment. And you will hear that in my next single as well, even though I think my job and my target was to show the people what else is in that general circle of stylistic fusion. I think it will be after 1 or 2 releases, it will become apparent what I'm all about.
And will there be an LP later on this year? Or
not,
an EP?
Not later on this year, but EP definitely. I feel like I want to have a steady creative output, and then when I have a couple of songs out, I might finish it up with an album, you know.
In English or in German, huh?
I don't do German.
Yeah, it's international.
I don't do German, no. No, the funny thing is, German music, they speak a different German than I actually speak, so I would have to change my whole.
You don't speak High German?
No, not really. Austrian German is not.
You don't speak High German? Oh,
it would be fair.
God.
I could speak it, but it would not be closer to me. Like the argument, why don't you make German music? Aren't you an Austrian artist? Yes, but that kind of speaking is even further away than English could ever be.
But if you don't speak High German, then you can't present, right? Am I right?
I could speak High German, but that would be a job. But that would not be my artistic identity.
Well, don't cut yourself out of those presenting gigs, man.
I can present. Hey, I can present. But as far as my art is concerned, I love English. I write in English since 20 years, well over 20 years now, and I'm much better at it than with German.
Now we're gonna have a sing out. Can I start it off?
Sure.
When your words have been my Bible,
how could I search for someone new? While I really want you by my side, and I get no sleep. I'm in too deep to let you leave.
And guys, you can sing along and finish that song. We have been speaking with Cesár Sampson. He is even hotter in person, and take the heat off me. See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.